Hello and welcome to functions, emphasizing fun. So functions are like a machine. You plug something in, the machine does something to it, you get something out. So mathematically, what that looks like is we deal with functions like this. Think of these as just equations. So when you take values, things you plug in, right, inputs, you plug them into the function. The function is going to do some work on it and give you something out. So for example, if I take 3 and I plug it in for the x, right here, wherever I see that x, I'm going to instead plug in 3. And then that means anywhere over here that I see an x, I plug in 3 as well. So this function machine, when I plug in a number, this number is going to multiply it by 2. Or this function machine is going to multiply by 2. So 2 times 3 is 6. Right? So when I plug in x equals 3, I get y equals 6. Or in function notation, f of 3 equals 6. Right? This is what I plugged in. This is what I got out. So on your note sheet, some of these you might already have done, but check all of them as we go and make sure you are up to speed. So on each of these, this is just giving you a function, and then it's asking you to evaluate for a given input. So remember, these are the input. Okay, so you're going to input that number into wherever you see that variable. So I like to put parentheses around that variable in the original function. And then anywhere that I see those parentheses, I'm going to replace those variables with the input. So for this first one, I'm plugging in 1. So instead of a t there, I now see a 1, and now I can evaluate. This is just notation. So you don't do anything with the left-hand side. This side, the right-hand side, is the side that you are evaluating. Find the number, right? Evaluate it, calculate it. Okay? So order operations, 1 squared is 1, 2 times 1 is 2. Add those two together, and f of 1 equals 3. So this is my output of this function. I put in 1, I got out 3. Check the next two. Especially when you have parentheses, or sorry, negative numbers that you're plugging in. You need to make sure you're using parentheses. Make sure you use parentheses just like you see on all of these on my screen. Let's check out number 2. Number 2, very similar type equation. Again, you're replacing each variable. So wherever I see that variable, put a parenthesis. And then wherever I see that variable in those parentheses, for that first one, I'm plugging in 3. And then again, order of operations, make sure you are calculating the exponent first. 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Add and subtract those together, we get positive 10. Letter B, make sure you use parentheses appropriately. When you take negative 4 squared, you get positive 16 times 2 is 32. Negative times a negative is positive. Add those together, get 45. G of 0, 0 squared is 0 times 2 is 0. Minus 3 times 0 is still 0. Plus 1, just 1. Just remember to pause this video as you need to. I'm going to go through these again quite quick. So number 3, again, number 3 and 4 have two different looking type functions. So just again, be aware of how we're setting these up and how we evaluate and ask questions when you need to. So for number 3, h of x, again, you are plugging in. Wherever you see a variable, you're plugging in the input. So h of 2 equals the absolute value. So these vertical bars, that's the absolute value. Remember, the absolute value of anything is just the positive result. So absolute value of 3 is equal to 3. Absolute value of negative 3 is equal to 3. So absolute value just gives you the positive value. So 2 minus 5, I'm going to evaluate the inside here. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. And 3 plus 3 is 6. For the next one, plug in 12. So again, I plugged in a 12. That's my input. 12 minus 5 is 7. Absolute value of 7 is just 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. Plug in 0. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. So on the inside of the absolute value, I get negative 5. Absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. Positive 5 plus 3 is 8. Number 4, we are dealing with an exponential function. The variable, notice, right up here, is in the exponent. So make sure it looks like it's in the exponent. Same process though. This is the input. So in place of that exponent, I'm going to place a 2. And then order of operations. Exponents first, and then multiply. Letter B, 3 to the power 5 is 243. Times 2 is 486. And then letter C, anything to the power of 0 is 1. And 1 is 2. So u sub 0 is 2 for letter C. We can also use graphs. We can use graphs to evaluate functions as well. So notice I have the function given to me, but what I want to know is, I want to know when I plug in, so again, this is my input, or usually it's your x value. So think about the connection to a graph. When you're graphing the x-axis and the y-axis, think of this as the x-axis and the f of x axis, the output, right? So when x equals 0, think of this as like an ordered pair. When x equals 0, what is the corresponding y value on my graph? So here's where x equals 0. If I travel down to the ordered pair, this is 0, comma, negative 2. That negative 2 is my answer. That's the output. Okay. The next one, here's my input, right? That's the x value. So if I go to x equals 2, travel up to my graph, there's the ordered pair. Travel over, and it's 4. So 2, comma 4 is that ordered pair. 4 is the output. 4 is my answer. When x equals negative 1, here's negative 1. Travel down to my graph. Travel over, negative 5. And then g of 1, that should be f of 1. So f of 1, here's 1. Travel up. There's the ordered pair. Travel over to the y value. It's just 1. Number 6, same idea, right? So input, this is the input. The answer is the output. In other words, x and y. Think of it as ordered pairs. So when x equals negative 2, here's the ordered pair. That would be negative 2, comma 0. 0 is the answer. H of negative 1. So here's negative 1. Travel down to my graph. There's the ordered pair. So the y value is negative 3. Here's positive 2. The y value is 0 for that one as well. And when x equals 0, here's the ordered pair, which lies right on the y-axis, and that is at negative 4. If you haven't yet tried these out, and if you have tried them, check them here, right? Pause the video and then play it as you need to and check your work. Okay, check these out. Again, just make sure you're paying attention to order of operations. Okay, order of operations here. This last one down here, letter F, really when you multiply this together, I would just, really, you can just leave this as plus 1 plus 5. Right? Negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. And then for number 2, there are all of your answers. Remember, those are the y values, right? So this is the x, this is the y value for each ordered pair, right? So g of negative 2, here's negative 2 on the x-axis. It falls on the x-axis. That means the y value corresponds to 0.